Those of us with autism sometimes get the sensation that we are living in a foreign country. I say sometimes, probably all the time or nearly all the time is more accurate. So here we are living in the world, the country of the neurotypical people. I like to refer to this as the neurotypical hive mind because they seem to have this mental unity where they understand each other without even speaking, just through uh, body language, or as some people say, nonverbal communication. They just know what they're doing. It's like a beehive. The bees go their own direction, but they interact with each other, never speaking, maybe making some noises, some sign languages. They understand it. The bees understand it. I don't get it. Same thing is true with neurotypical people. They know very well what they're doing. I just don't get it. That's why we call it a hive mind, the neurotypical hive mind. It's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just a reality, and along with that reality is the fact that we as people with autism have to deal with it. We are here on planet Earth with these people, and they outnumber us significantly. So they make all the rules, and I guess that's okay, but sometimes we feel a little bit lost. So let's, if you're going to travel to a foreign country, one thing you might want to do is do a little bit of research, right? You want to find out what their customs are, what their language is, find out as much about them as you possibly can before you set out on your excursion, your trip to the foreign country. Well, we're already in the foreign country. So now let's ask ourselves some questions and get our bearing and find out how we can best function alongside the neurotypical hive mind. I've got 5 points here. And then at the end, as always, we'll tie all this together. But number one, I think we need to identify what I would call the North Star. That is, what is our direction? Where are we going? Where are we heading? What do we want to accomplish? And in life, there are a lot of things that people want to accomplish. It's typically not one thing, but all those things collectively, like maybe we want to have a family, we want to have a decent income, we want to live a safe and happy life. We have a North Star. And when it comes to I should say, when it comes to having that objective, there are three things, call them, would you call them barriers or I call them boundaries? There are three boundaries that I like to stay in. Number one is I ask myself, is this endeavor profitable? I mean by that simply not does it make money, but is it worth the effort? Seriously. And number two, I ask myself, is it legal? Am I going to get myself in trouble trying to accomplish this objective? And number three, I ask myself, if it's profitable and if it's legal, I also want to know, is it ethical? Is it moral? Yeah, I understand a lot of people don't care about morality. I think it's important. That's a personal thing. But people with autism tend to have certain moral standards in that they tend to be very honest. And we are put out by dishonesty because it's dishonest. But a lot of people who dwell in the neurotypical hive mind, being dishonest is to be expected. I mean, that's just how many of those people operate. They think it's smart. I don't understand that. But what I have to do is I have to understand that if I'm going to reach my goals in life, there are some things that, some customs of the neurotypical hive mind that I prefer not to participate in. So let's say you're going to a foreign country. For example, a country like, like France. They like their wine, right? In France, my last name, by the way, is French. I have French ancestry. Most of it's English and Irish, but I have Western European ancestry. But if I go to France, one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to drink alcohol, period. I don't care. It's their custom. It's not mine. So I'm going to understand and know what their customs rather are, but that doesn't mean I have to participate in them. So I want to know, when I'm identifying my objective, my purpose, why do I even want to venture into the hive mind to begin with, the neurotypical hive mind to begin with? Well, if there's no profit in doing it, There's got to be a good reason. I'm just going to stay out if there's not. And again, is it legal and is it ethical? Is it moral? Does it have good standards? Does it meet my standards? The second thing is we need to understand before we make an excursion, make a trip toward anything, journey toward anything, is what is it that powers you? You got a vehicle, right? So there is something that powers the vehicle. You've got an engine, but the engine is powered by gasoline. So we need to have fuel. Well, what is the fuel that moves us ahead? So we're trying to accomplish a goal as we're navigating through the neurotypical hive mind. And for me, the fuel is purpose. So I like to put it this way. Purpose is power. That is to say, not only do I know what I'm doing, where I'm going, not only do I ask myself those 3 questions about being profitable, legal, and ethical, but I also want to know why I'm doing this. There's got to be a reason, there's got to be a purpose for me to accomplish something. So years ago, I started a business. I wanted to make sure it was profitable, it was legal, and that it was ethical. But I also wanted to have a purpose for doing it. Why was I doing this? Just to spend time? No, I wanted to make a profit. That was my purpose. And as long as it was profitable and it was legal and it was ethical, I was okay with it. So I want to know what is the purpose. But not everything has the purpose of profit. That is to say, financial profit. Sometimes there are other types of profit, like just just enjoyment, for example, or just the camaraderie of being with friends and family. That is enough a purpose to power you. That's a motive that gets us going, that moves us in the right direction. So I want to answer the question, why am I doing this in the first place? And if I don't have a good reason, I don't do it. It's pretty much that simple. Number 3 is, and this is kind of important, is what if I set out on my excursion and it doesn't work? It doesn't go well. For example, what if you start a new job? And you're familiar with this if you are autistic. Start a new job and like the first second, maybe the second that you are on the job, somebody has already identified you as a mark. They have already identified you as somebody they can take advantage of you. Now, is that an exaggeration? I don't think so. I mean, seriously, there are some people that are just innately programmed by nature, neurotypically programmed by nature to target people, and through their amygdala, probably they have this predisposition to narcissism and to psychopathy, and it's what they do. The way they boost their ego is by targeting people they deem to be weaker or more vulnerable. That's you, if you're autistic. So sometimes we'll start that job, or we'll go someplace, maybe a social group or whatever, and somebody targets us, and we find it's just not going to work. This person, maybe there's more than one, make sure that you are not going to feel comfortable. And they're not going to let up until they get the satisfaction of destroying you. That's a terrible thing to say, but it's also a reality. So the point of that is we need to have a plan B if this doesn't work out. If this job doesn't work out. If this love interest does not work out. If this friendship doesn't work out. If this neighborhood doesn't work out. Do I have a plan B? Before you endeavor, you need to have a plan B. You need to have a backup plan. In fact, it never hurts to have multiple backup plans. If this doesn't work, what am I going to do as an alternative? Now, sometimes the backup plan is do nothing. I don't really like that backup plan because planning to do nothing really is not a plan, usually. But sometimes, hey, maybe nothing is better than something. Number 4 is, this is kind of important, we need to learn their language. Learn the language of neurotypical people because, quite frankly, they speak in a different language than we do. They love axioms, they love representative language, they love to use words that don't mean what they mean, And people with autism, we tend to take words literally. You know, the word means this, so that's what the word means. And the illustration that everybody uses, so I'll use it too, is raining cats and dogs. Okay, David Letterman said raining canned hams, but you know, we're going to take cats and dogs. Now, to be honest with you, I've never met a person who is autistic who took that literally. But the point is, some people take things too literally. And I know one of the problems that I've encountered over my life is people would pick up on that. And they see it as a gullibility or that I'm naive, and they would have fun with me. They would tell me I need to say something or behave this way or do this thing or whatever it is, then stand back and laugh because I believe them. I think you're supposed to do that. What I don't realize is they have their own language. And if we don't understand, they don't really mean raining cats and dogs. And yeah, I think we all understand that. But there are other things we don't understand. So we need to catch on and at least pay a little bit of attention to when they're speaking in terms that are representative or when they're speaking in terms that are literal. And there are a lot of things that people say that are not literal. I can imagine how difficult it would be if you are speaking a different language as your native language, as your first language, and then trying to learn English with all the axioms that we have. But there they are, and we speak a different language. We speak literal, and they speak figurative language. So we need to learn their language, both verbal and nonverbal. That look in their eye, what does that mean? That expression on their face, what does that mean? Do we know? Well, let's find out. Let's learn it. So maybe it doesn't come natural, but that doesn't mean we can't learn what their expressions are, what their facial expressions are, what their hand gestures are. And then number 5 is this, kind of important. I talked about this the other day, but this is a business principle, but it applies in life across the board. And that is test before you invest. You know, people who are scammers, they like to tell you that smart business people make snap decisions. The fact of the matter is, no, they don't. You make snap decisions. You're going to buy stuff you don't need. You're going to invest money and lose it. You're going to make stupid decisions. You need to do your research, your homework. You need to test before you invest. And when it comes to working with people in the hive mind, the neurotypical hive mind, we need to test. We need to try it out. We need to do some trial runs. If you're having difficulty, as many of us do, and here I am in my 70s, still having problems with this, you know, small talk, just conversation, general conversation, it does not come naturally for me. It just doesn't. But I'm getting better at it because I am practicing always. Every opportunity I see somebody, I'll go ahead and try to say something, even if it comes out sounding really strange, and often it does. But that's okay. I'm getting a little bit better at it. So here I am, as old as I am, still improving. So go ahead and practice. I mean, they don't like you anyhow. What are you going to lose? So you don't like small talk, but if you need to, sometimes you have to communicate and get along with neurotypical people. And one way to do that is through their type of communication, which includes small talk. Well, why not talk about the weather? If that's what they want to talk about, I can talk about it. The fact that I think it's kind of a silly topic doesn't matter. They think it's, I don't know why they do it. Why do they do it? I guess it just, it's a verbal, nonverbal, I think. It's where they are just kind of feeling each other out. It's kind of like a handshaking. It's like verbal handshaking, just to, be friendly. Okay, they want to be friendly. So I will be friendly using their language, their body language and their verbal language. Why not? It's not natural for me, but that doesn't mean I can't do it. I'm just being courteous. I'm being nice to these people. Why would I not do that? Something else we want to do is, I like to say this, talking about test before you invest. A lot of people have this attitude that you just need to dive into something head first. If you're going to do it, just do it. That's a good way to get yourself in trouble. I read a story, or maybe it was a video, I was watching a couple months ago. And there was this family, and they had a family, I think it was two sisters really, and they had, one of them had a son. And they had this notion that the world was coming to an end. And being the wise, smart people that they were, they decided that they would not be victims to the end of the world. But what they would do is they would go out in the wilderness somewhere and, set up housekeeping. And to do that, they watched videos on YouTube. They learned how to survive in the wilderness. And then they just went. They left. They packed up the car and took off. Just plunged in head first. And a few months later, they found all of them didn't survive. It was horrific. Winter set in and all that they learned on YouTube when they tried to apply it, it didn't work. Why didn't they just come home? I don't know. Maybe they were stubborn. Maybe they had so much belief in their theory that the world was coming to an end. And last I checked, it hadn't come to an end, so they were wrong on that point. But the point is, they dove in head first. They didn't think about it. So the way that I like to say that is before you dive into the pool, make sure there's water in the pool. Some people say put your toe in the water. That's probably a good idea, but maybe just check out there's water. You don't dive off a diving board and as you're going down suddenly realize there's no water in the swimming pool. And that's the last thing you think. So, practice, test before you invest. Look before you leap, as the saying goes. The untold story is this. The path to failure in life is paved with foolishness. So, say you've got bricks that are made out of just silliness, absurdities. And that's what you're going to rely on to travel on. You're not going to get very far. Just not going to happen. So we need to make sure that we understand that we need to think, we need to practice, we need to get involved with the neurotypical world. And it's not easy, it's not pleasant. Sometimes it's downright grating, and sometimes we get in a little bit, then we have to get out. I remember the first time, I bought a sauna for health reasons, and I remember the first time I went in the sauna. Got it up to 80-some degrees Celsius, which I guess is 180 Fahrenheit. And when I first stepped in, it felt really good for about 5 seconds. And then I said, okay, I've had enough. I'm out of here. But now, I go in and I stay for 20 minutes around 200 degrees Fahrenheit, or upwards of nearly 200 degrees Fahrenheit. And it feels pretty good for 20 minutes. Okay, by the time 20 minutes rolls around, I'm ready to get out. But the point is, it takes practice. How do you practice getting in a sauna? Well, you need to acclimate your body to that. It's called, what do they call that? Heat, I forget what they call it. But your body gets accustomed to the heat. And that's true of just about anything. So if we're going to work with the neurotypical world, we need to understand that we don't have to step in and stay in. Sometimes we step in and step out. Then, okay, that was 5 seconds. Next time we're going to do it 10 seconds. And longer. I love to jog. Not sure how long I'm going to do it, but I love to run. So the first time I took off running, as an adult, I got winded pretty quick. I had to stop, walk a while. But now I've got it up to where I can slow jog for about 3 miles, and that's as far as I go. I could probably go farther, but I think that's all the benefit that I need, and anything beyond that, kind of a waste of time. But the same thing is true as working with the neurotypical hive mind and the people who are there. Practice, and the more we practice, the better we get. Sometimes we have to do masking. That's okay, as long as we're not being dishonest. We're just trying to get along. I mean, everybody does masking, right? If you groom yourself, which I hope you do, take a shower, comb your hair. Ladies like to put on makeup. Most of them, some of them don't. But you like to dress halfway decent. If you're an Aspie like me, you dress very comfortably. But at least I wear clean clothes. They may look the same all the time, but at least they're clean. Why am I doing that? Well, it's kind of masking. It's a way of presenting myself for the benefit of others so that I'm not offensive. Now, some people say, well, that's not the real you. I mean, the real you would be if you never took a shower, never combed your hair. Uh, yeah, well, maybe. But sometimes that type of masking where we groom ourselves is just a courteous to other people. Not to mention it's healthy. So we need to apply that type of masking to our behavior. So when we are around other people, when we are being like neurotypical people in the hive mind, that's not being dishonest. This is putting on a clean shirt. It's just our way of combing our hair and not acting like a total idiot because that's what comes natural. Imagine what the world would be like if everybody did what comes natural all the time. We would have a social breakdown. So we need to be conscious of the fact, and we're talking about practice until we get good at it. Why not? You know, I'm never going to be neurotypical. I understand that. But at the same time, I don't have to be totally alienated from the neurotypical hive mind because there are benefits to me and to them for me to get along with them and try to get them to get along with me best I can. So how do we tie all this together? The way that I tie it together is I say something like this. I just like to cop an attitude. You know, people may not like me. They may not like the way I look. They may not like my behavior patterns. My attitude is, you know, I care, but I don't care that much. If you like me, I'm glad. If you don't like me, I'm sad. But, you know, I am who I am. I've got this attitude. And yeah, I'm going to try to get along with people best I can. That's my part. You know, the way that I say it is the door is always unlocked on my side. So if somebody finds me hard to get along with, it's their problem. If you want to get along with me, seriously, you know, speaking to anybody, as long as you're not taking advantage of me, you know, a lot of people are trying to dupe us, but as long as you're serious trying to get along with me, I'm okay. Come on in, whoever you are for whatever reason. Destiny is not the only determinant. By that I mean we sometimes think that we are destined to be autistic, and we are. But there are other things that determine the outcome beside the fact that we have autism. And one of the things is, well, we have a brain, right? We have intelligence. We're able to think through things. We're able to be reasonable. And we know how, we're smart people, most of us. And we know how to get along with the hive mind. We find it frustrating, difficult, challenging, sometimes hurtful, sometimes flat out depressing, sometimes very depressing, but we're not so stupid. Most of us, there may be a few exceptions, but we're not so incapable that we can't move forward and make things work. We will see you all next time.